Snow is falling in Beijing. Today, let's explore one of the city's most mysterious ancient royal temples, Cheng'in Temple, and see what makes it so mysterious. Located on Modku Street in the western Beijing, Cheng'in Temple may not stand out at first glance. Yet, because of its 3 no's, 3 highs, and 5 wonders, it is known as one of the most mysterious temples in Beijing. Cheng'in Temple was built in 1513 during the Zhengde reign of the Ming Dynasty. It was commissioned by Wen Xiang, a powerful chief eunuch of the Directorate of Ceremonial, and he himself is the temple's first mystery. The Directorate of Ceremonial was no ordinary office, and it is one of the most powerful institutions in the Ming Dynasty. It controlled the imperial seal, reviewed memorials on behalf of the emperor, gathered intelligence, and effectively acted as the emperor's eyes and eard. It also managed palace resources and internal affairs, earning it the reputation of being the most powerful bureau of its time. Eunuchs in the Ming Dynasty are often remembered for their notoriety, with figures like Wang Zhen, Lu Jin, and Wei Zhongxian frequently cast as villains in historical dramas. Wen Xiang, however, seems different. Historical records about him are scarce, but what little we know suggests a more measured figure. He once handled a false accusation with fairness and helped the Empress Dowager suppress a rebellion by powerful officials. This implies not only that he was deeply trusted, but also that he may have had influence over the imperial secret police, the Jinyue. Because of this, Cheng'in Temple, with its many unusual features, has been speculated to have served as an important outpost for intelligence operations outside the capital. Beyond Wen Xiang's unusual background, Cheng'in Temple has many puzzling features, things that only really make sense if you see it as some kind of intelligence outpost. There's a saying in China that ancient temples hide deep in the mountains, but this one does the exact opposite. It sits right along the busy old western route out of Beijing, Modku Street, once a key stretch of the historic Silk Road, the starting point of the ancient Silk Road from Beijing. In the past, this was a major artery. Goods, travelers, officials, and even members of the imperial family heading to ancestral tombs all passed through here. Scholars on excursions and pilgrims on religious journeys took this road as well. In other words, it's hardly an ideal place for monks seeking quiet spiritual retreat, but perfect for gathering and passing along intelligence. There's even an anecdote from the Wanli era, when coal miners from Western Mountain planned to protest in the capital. The news reached the palace before they even arrived. Why? Because they had to pass right by Cheng'in Temple on their way into the city. Despite being built along such a busy road, the temple followed a very unusual rule known as the 3 no's. No opening its gates to the public, no accepting incense offerings, and no conducting religious ceremonies. Monks rely on offerings from worshippers. How did they survive? Part of the answer that the monks were actually paid by the court, not for chanting sutras or meditation, but perhaps for something far less visible. Beyond the 3 no's, Cheng'in Temple is also known for its striking 3 highs. First, a high construction status. Second, a high-ranking abbot. In most temples, abbots are appointed through religious circles, but the first abbot here, Zongyong, was directly transferred by Wen Xiang. The following abbots had similarly obscure and powerful backgrounds. Third, a high level of protection. The Emperor Zhu Hozhao personally bestowed the plaque imperially granted Cheng'in Temple and issued a special decree forbidding local officials, military forces, or civilians from interfering in any of the temple's affairs. A copy of this edict is still preserved today in the Beijing History Exhibition at the Capitol Museum. The temple itself covers about 19,000 square meters with a formal north-south layout. That in itself isn't unusual, but what is striking is the structure surrounding it. The entire complex is enclosed by a continuous ring of buildings, forming a square, inward-facing layout. This kind of design is extremely rare for temples, and in some ways, it feels more reminiscent of the Forbidden City than a traditional Buddhist monastery. Speaking of Cheng'in Temple, you can't miss its 5 wonders, the mounting stones, the ancient watchtowers, the rooftop bell and drum towers, the murals, and the V-shaped pine tree. The foremost of Cheng-In Temple's 5 wonders is the Ming Dynasty murals inside its halls. Unfortunately, they're not open to the public today, so they can't be seen. The second wonder, the old watchtowers. There's a watchtower at each of the 4 corners. Some say there are tunnels underneath linking the towers together. People believe the temple might have been built here for spying or passing along information. The third wonder, bell and drum towers on the roof. At Cheng-In Temple, the bell and drum towers are built right on top of the roofs instead of on the ground. They sit above the side rooms next to the Hall of Heavenly Kings, something you almost never see in other temples. That's all for today's video. Thanks for your watching. That will continue to bring you more unique perspectives on famous historic landmarks around the world.